Hi, I'm Anthony Newbold. Welcome to A Closer Look. My guest this week is the Minister of State for Finance and Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson. Minister, welcome to A Closer Look.
Hi, Ace. It is good to be here with you, and a pleasant good day to the entire Bahamas.
And again, Happy New Year. I haven't seen you for a while. Since we last spoke, you got a new appointment. Of course, any ministerial appointment brings great responsibility. Finance is a whole another kettle of fish. What has the transition, how has that transition been for you?
So I'm grateful really to God first of all, and also to the Prime Minister for his appointment and for his confidence, and for the grateful also for the ability to continue to serve. The Ministry of Finance, as you know, really is a very important portfolio for the government. It is the portfolio that deals with the national budget. It also focuses on the revenue that is collected by the government and also managing the expenditure of the government. But right now, one of the most important focuses really is on stimulating the economy, and that's sort of one of the biggest focuses that we have at the ministry right now. I'm thankful though that we have a very good, competent group of professionals who are well trained and who are zeroed in really on the government's priority, and they are very supportive in all of the government's actions. And then we have a good group of professionals who manage the agencies that come under the Ministry of Finance. So, for example, in customs and DIR. And so they really are the engine behind the Ministry of Finance. And so I'm grateful really to have such a good group and supportive persons behind us.
The IMF recently commended the government for the way it's responded to this whole coronavirus thing. Was there a specific area where they said, listen, we like what you did over there?
Well, the IMF is one of those international agencies that you do have to pay some attention to. I do want to say that I was not the minister in the seat at the time when the IMF did come and did do their latest interviews. The former Minister of Finance, Peter Turnquest, who I might add did an excellent job in this seat. He was the minister that oversaw them when they came. But I think the point is that despite the naysayers, the Ministry of Finance and the government in particular took the necessary decision that when we were hit by those two shocks, being Dorian and the pandemic, that we would then begin to focus our attention on one, saving lives, and two, ensuring that we preserve as much of the economy as we could, and then specifically drilling down into helping and assisting the most vulnerable. And I think that was the point that the IMF recognized, that we did it, and we did it to help sustain the economy and help to buffer the effects of Dorian and help to buffer the effects of COVID-19. So they made specific mention about the social programs, the food assistance programs. They made special mention about the amount of funds that we put into health infrastructure to shore that up. They also made mention about the small business assistance that was really critical in helping small businesses to get through this difficult period. And then also we put in place and extended the time for unemployment benefit. And even after that, those times were up, the government continues to assist with unemployment benefits. So that was really the focus that they spoke to in terms of confirming really that the government made the right decision when it started to shift and focus on those aspects.
And as you said, IMF, one of those groupings you, meaning the government, need to pay attention to. But, you know, a lot of people probably don't care what the IMF says because they want to feel it on the ground. Is it difficult trying to maintain that balance between taking care of the needs of the people and still in the back of your mind having to look at that big picture and say, listen, the IMF is watching us?
Well, you know, the big picture really is that everybody is trying to pursue their goals, and you have to be mindful, and you have to look at it again from your people's point of view, but again from everybody's point of view, because those, you know, mothers and fathers, you know, they're focusing on the quality of life for their kids. You know, the ordinary businessman, he's really focused on how do I sustain this business? How do I pay my employees? The ordinary employee, they're focused on, you know, how do I maintain the job, and how do I ensure that the funds that I get, I can help my family. And then you have some of those who really are looking at how do I find a job, how do I feed my kids, how do I pay my light bill. And so, even though you may look at this from the big picture, you still have to focus in and zero in on the needs of our citizens. And that's really what the government is trying to do. It's trying to balance our fiscal situation, and a difficult fiscal situation. So it's trying to balance how do we manage a situation where because of those two big shocks, we don't have as much money as we had before, but we have double or triple the need as you had before. And so that's the way that we have to look at it, and how we have to balance it, and how we have to focus on it. But the main priority, particularly through this crisis, is on the emphasis of saving lives. And so that is a balancing act that the Prime Minister has had to do, that the Ministry of Finance has had to do, as well as the entire cabinet has to focus on. And so we believe we've gotten the balance as best as we can in the circumstances where we're focused on saving lives, but then at the same time helping to sustain families, helping to sustain employment, and then also trying to move and rebuild the economy at the same time.
Okay, I want to talk to you about revenue streams, but we got to take a break, Minister, and we'll be right back with the Minister of State for Finance, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson, after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with the Minister of State for Finance, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson, also the Minister of State responsible for Grand Bahama. Minister, you talk about the two shocks that the country's had. Dorian first, and then this pandemic. The government has to get some revenue in there. And, you know, some people are saying, let's look at income tax. Government says that's off the table. Why are you still maintaining that position, meaning the government?
Well, you know, for those who are old enough to remember, at one point the government's main source of taxation really was customs duty. Yeah. And we were focused and zeroed in on collecting our customs duty, and we sort of prided ourselves as being a no tax destination. We recognize, though, that even from an international standard was not the best, and so we adjusted, and we had to introduce value-added tax, and recently we had to increase the value-added tax. But I think we've taken the view that given the current COVID pandemic And on the heels of rebuilding from Hurricane Dorian, that it would not be the right time for us to attempt to adjust into a new tax structure.
Oh, okay. Income tax is off the table. Would it be fair to say that, again, are some other taxes still on the table?
So again, I want to be sort of clear on this, that the government has not introduced any new taxes in the past fiscal year. And then again, given the current economic environment, and we're struggling at the moment with high unemployment. We're struggling with underemployment levels. And one of the things that we have to be focused on is not additional taxes, but we have to be focused on growing the economy. One of the things that I'm saying here is the challenges that we have. We are not going to tax our way out of this, but we have to grow our way out of this, which means having a specific focus on how we grow our economy. I think what we also have to be focused on is the leakages of our revenue, and beginning to focus on not just trying to get new forms of taxation, but how do we collect the taxes that are already there? And how do we ensure that we stop the leakages that are already there? And so that's again what the Ministry of Finance really has also been focused on, is creating economic growth, which creates jobs for our people, but also attempting to stop the leakages and collecting the taxes that are already outstanding.
The government has some important pieces of legislation that I know are currently on the table of Parliament. Public procurement bill, public debt management bill, public financial management bill, and the statistics bill. For the benefit of those watching and listening to us, how would each of those bills impact the Bahamas?
So I'll be the first to say that I think in the minds of the ordinary Bahamian, they may not be that focused on the public procurement bill or the public debt management bill, but they have huge significance for public finances.
Yes.
And they really will change the way that the government collects money and pays money out. And for the government system, it really will be a complete shift and change in the way how we do business and bringing us up to international standards. So the public procurement bill is again one of those things that will help ordinary Bahamians who want to get government contracts to do it in a fair and an open and a transparent way. And so it provides those rules that brings us up to international standards. The public debt management bill is one of those things that, again, for the ordinary Bahamian, it may not be that focused on it, but it really helps us in how we organize and how we manage the government's debt and the government's payment obligations with respect to that debt, and in making sure that we take advantage of the best minds and the best talent in being able to manage the government's debt. The public financial management bill, though, is a big one. And that has effects from ministers all the way down to a clerk that has to deal with how we manage government funds and how we make decisions. It opens up government. It causes us to have to put in place plans. It causes us to be more accountable. It causes us to show the public more of what's going on in government. And so every ministry now has to present a plan. Every ministry now will be held accountable. When it comes to public finances, there are monthly reports, and those monthly reports will have to be made public. What this really does is it focuses on more transparency. It focuses on bringing government closer to the people and really holding us and holding other public servants accountable. The statistics bill, something that's necessary. It just puts us in a better position to assess those or those collect those statistics, and really helps us then to make better decisions and data driven decisions as opposed to just guesswork. But we can now do it in a better way and have that necessary data to make the best decisions for our people.
No question in your mind you're going to get those passed in this term.
That's what we're focused on. Absolutely. We are actually completing them now. The public procurement bill is already before Parliament, but we are just fine tuning the last three, and we expect to table them very shortly, and we expect them to be passed.
Okay, got to take another break. I want to talk to you about some of the money you've spent on social services, but we got to take a break, and we'll be back with the Minister of State for Finance, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson, after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with Minister of State for Finance, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson. Minister, even prior to this pandemic, the government made a conscious decision to focus on small business development. Are you satisfied with your investment in that sector?
Even before the Dorian and before the pandemic, the government was really focused on small business development. And I have to say that I think one of the biggest achievements of this government is going to be the Small Business Development Center. I recall personally traveling to the U.S. To look at how development centers in the U.S. worked. And we had a team that came from the Ministry of Finance that also brought it back and was able to create, I think, one of the best institutions that we have now, and one of the most impactful. And thankfully, the Small Business Development Center was established, and we think it was so timely because when Dorian came, the Small Business Development Center was able to step right in and provide assistance for small businesses who were damaged. And then when the pandemic came, they were able to provide the necessary assistance. We've had in excess of $40 million that was spent during this COVID period that was spent to assist small businesses through grants and through loans, and that's throughout the Bahamas. And it is still being done. And we've had, again, in excess of $40 million as well for those business continuity loans, which, again, was specifically just to help businesses survive and help businesses to keep employment. And in the numbers, it showed that in excess of 7,000 jobs were saved as a result of the Small Business Development Center putting in place those loans and those things to help businesses.
Listen, borrowing has been just out of this world. $2.1 billion. With all the constraints, is it likely, do you see any likelihood that there could be a need to do some additional borrowing? And how much would we be able to borrow?
So I can say this, that if you recall, again, prior to Dorian and prior to the pandemic, we were at we made tremendous progress with respect to reducing the deficit. We also made tremendous progress in putting together a plan that would take us to where we could get a balanced budget in a matter of years. We also point where we saw economic growth since the Great Depression. And so we were heading towards, and again, we the finance team, the former Minister of Finance, Peter Turnquest, we were at a trajectory where our economy was getting very strong. Unfortunately, we've had those shocks, and as a result of those shocks, it really has put a strain on the economy. And as I said, in really putting it in layman's terms, we've collected less and we've spent more, and rightfully so. We've collected less because there was less economic activity because of COVID, but we've spent more because we've had to support our people. We've had to support the economy. We've had to keep things going, and we've had to do our best to protect and save the most vulnerable. But we believe we are on a rebound. We believe that things are going to get better. We also have seen a slight uptick, a slight uptick in terms of our revenue over the past 3 months. We're still severely challenged, though. We're still severely challenged, but we're headed in the right direction.
You and the government's decision to increase the expenditure for food services and food assistance. Good news for people, obviously, but it's expensive. How long can you afford to do it?
You know, it is essential. The Prime Minister and the government really made a strong decision that we would focus our attention on ensuring that people do not go hungry. And it was an intentional decision. We know it was a difficult decision, but it was an intentional decision to assist people in the most vulnerable, but also to assist in the most difficult time. We're going to monitor it. We're going to continue to see how the situation goes. The Prime Minister has indicated that it will continue until March, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation, and then we're going to make the best decision that we possibly can in the circumstances.
All right, Minister, as we come to the end of this, I know you also extended the special recovery zones. How is that working?
And again, it is really evidence of the focus of the government and evidence of the innovative means that the government has put into place to assist its people. So, you know, during Hurricane Dorian, for the first time ever, the government took legislation to Parliament and put in place a mechanism called special economic zones. And those special economic zones have assisted Bahamians in Abaco and Grand Bahama greatly. And so from that time, they've been able to take advantage of VAT and duty-free exemptions with respect to the vehicles and food and building materials and a number of things, business licenses and a number of things. Well, we've had to take a good look at those, and as time goes on, we've had to make adjustments to them. And so recently we've made adjustments to where we have only extended the concessions as it relates to VAT and duty-free on building materials, on furnitures, on equipment, and the like with respect to rebuilding. And we, again, would have had to make that decision based on our economic situation, but also focusing that there still are a lot of people who are in the rebuilding process. And so we wanted to ensure that they knew that these concessions, although Hurricane Dorian was a year ago, or over a year ago, that they still will have in place these concessions to help them rebuild.
Minister, thank you. You got to come back because we didn't get to several of your other parts of your portfolio. But thank you very much anyway. We need to talk about Grand Bahama and the digital transformation, but that will be another show. Thank you again for coming and sitting with us here on the show.
Ace, it has been a pleasure, and I do want to just leave an encouraging word to all Bahamians. We are still strong. Despite what we have gone through, we are still strong. We are getting better. And I want to encourage every Bahamian that your government is continuing to work for you.
Thank you, and thank you for watching A Closer Look. Remember, you can also see us on Facebook and on YouTube.